Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 333. A weekly little get together. We talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Dave Brown, and tonight, the Doom composer, Mick Gordon, has levied some rather serious abuse allegations against id, specifically Marty Stratton. We have the real reason why Microsoft seems to be wanting to buy Activision Blizzard, and a legendary voice actor passed away, and we'll be touching on all of that and more in just a moment. But first, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching live here at Twitch TV /GamePoints or over at any myriad of video hosting platforms, be it YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, etc., feel free to join the conversation. If any comments, questions, concerns you might have, just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. And of course, if you like what you see here, you know what streamers want when it comes to follows, big shares, likes, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and move on with the very first topic I want to get into. And it's a bit of a sad one because I believe that this man literally shaped the childhoods of many of you out there. First up on the docket from Enemy, Batman actor Kevin Conroy, dead at the age of 66. It cannot be understated how influential this man was with that role. To the day where now, whenever I see Batman in any kind of like print media or comic, I read his dialogue with this man's voice. He has been voicing Batman since the early 90s in the old DC animated universe, Batman the Animated Series. Continued to do so all the way through multiple games and standalone movies, and was actively involved in the character almost up to the point of his death, which did happen last week. To the article from Enemy, which we see here, this and all other articles I use today will be posted in the links down below. So if you want to read them for yourselves, go take a look. Actor Kevin Conroy, known for voicing Batman in various animated TV shows, feature films, and video games, has died at the age of 66, Warner Brothers has confirmed. Conroy first played Bruce Wayne in his superhero alter ego Batman, the animated series, which aired from 92 to 95. His performance and the series proved so popular with fans that it returned many times in various animated TV shows and movies over the years, as well as video games including Arkham Knight and Arkham City, a trilogy I just finished up on stream, by the way, or not on stream. No, I was doing it on my own time. Never mind. Either way, I did just finish it up. I actually beat Arkham Knight the night Conroy died, and that was kind of a little bit of a bittersweet moment there. Back to the article. He most recently appeared in a classic part for 2019 episode of Batwoman. That was one of the CW shows, which I think got canceled. After Kevin Conroy, known for voicing Batman, we already read that. Weird that I have that on here again. I don't know why I have that written in my notes, but long story short, he died, and he had a pouring of support from people who worked with him online, including Mark Hamill, Tara Strong, Andrea Romano, or Romano? Was it Romano? Either way, the voice acting director for DC for the longest time. There are few items of fandom that an entire fan base can look at solely and go, yes, this here is excellent. And this man was one of them. I can't think of a single person that did not enjoy Kevin Conroy's gravelly voice as Batman and Bruce Wayne. He added both a strong, threatening vibe to Batman while also delivering a very sympathetic tone to the Bruce Wayne side of things. He is the voice of Batman for so many of us out there, and has been for damn near 3 decades at the very least. He will definitely be missed for sure. I really don't got much more to say on this one other than the fact that he was just universally loved. I can't think of a single person out there who would know that Kevin Conroy was going to be voicing Batman and went, I'd have someone else. No, he was Batman when it came to the cartoons, for damn sure. When it came to video games, for especially so. And that is one of those things that is going to be very hard to follow up. And follow up they will. There have been other Batman cartoons since Kevin Conroy stopped doing them on TV. There will be more Batman video games without him. But it is still very much one of those things that his loss will be felt through both the animation and video game side of things when it comes to anything related to that iconic character he voiced. If you have any particular favorite moments from Kevin Conroy that you want to put down in the chat below, please let me know. My favorite episode of Batman the Animated Series was Heart of Ice, by the way, the introduction of Mr. Freeze. One of the greatest episodes of that series by far. Watermelon, how you doing? Good to have you here. All right, let's go ahead and move on to something a little bit lighter, and we're going to talk about the Game Award nominees that were dropped earlier today. Now, we're not going to go through every single one of these categories on there because there are a good deal of them, but I want to highlight a couple of them and see what your thoughts on them, what my thoughts on them, share that for sure, and then we will probably move on pretty quickly after this. But there are some things I want to take a look at. Of course, Game of the Year being one of them. I personally feel that 2022 has been a very thin year for games. There weren't really many bangers. There were a couple good ones, as in this list exemplifies many of them. This is what's nominated up for Game of the Year right now, and we have Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. If I had to pick one from these 6 on here, Elden Ring, easily. However, what bothers me is that it really feels like some good indie games are being overlooked. And I'm not saying that these games aren't great, but I think that you could easily place a Plague Tale, which I loved Requiem, by the way. I do think that's one of my favorite games this year, but I think both that and Stray, and to a lesser degree, God of War Ragnarok, more on that probably in another show or two, can be replaced with like Vampire Survivors and Nobody Saves the World. Now, I know that I might get some shit for Vampire Survivors being a $3 be the bullet hell kind of game, but I can't think of any other game that's done that before. It created a genre, and it really, really took off surprisingly well. And that, at the very least, I would say that has a better place on this list than Stray. Definitely with like Nobody Saves the World. I would replace Stray or Plague Tale Requiem if Nobody Saves the World for certain. Let's see. Chat saying Elden Ring, a lot of Elden Ring love, of course. That's the one that I do expect will win, is Elden Ring. I don't see any other way around it. And if, with these 6 on here, I would say Elden Ring, followed by probably Xenoblade, are my choices as well. But this, it really feels that there are certain blinders on when it comes to the people who choose these games. And we're going to get into that a little bit farther down as well. That they kind of pick things not because they're necessarily worthy of being on here, but because they just feel like they should be on here. And there are some very questionable choices in some categories. Let's go ahead and move into a few of those categories now. Best game direction. This isn't actually one of those categories, but it does have something on it I don't think belongs on here. Very similar list to Game of the Year with addition of Immortality. I don't think Immortality needs to be on here. I know the critics love Immortality and Her Story and all the other games from that specific developer. I find them to be horribly boring and not really even games at all. They're more just interactive storytelling mediums. Now, hey, what is a game is an entirely different conversation, but I don't feel that this, in specifically the category here, should be here at all. Best narrative, okay, sure, but that's not that. This is game direction. That's not narrative. I do feel like Immortality, and you're going to see this game popping up multiple times in multiple categories, is not here necessarily because it's a great game. It's here because the Criterati, the Legacy Games media, really just love that particular game for some reason, so it's getting put on there. Now, this also comes into this whole subjective versus objective debate. I don't want to have that here. I just don't think Immortality belongs here, and I do think there might be some shared consensus as opposed to actually everyone just kind of goes, well, I like this. There's no real way I can actually put this, but I think we all understand. I'm trying to do it without being too inflammatory here. And too conspiratorial, to be fair. Yeah, it's one of those critic games. Exactly. It's just a game, it's like Stray in that regard. It's a game that people themselves might have enjoyed, but it was the critics that really, really loved it. Let's see, let's take a look at Best Narrative. This is where I think Immortality actually might belong, and it is on there. You're going to see a lot of these same games popping up over and over and over again. There was a bit of backlash to Elden Ring getting best narrative because some people make the claim that if you need to go watch a Vyat Vidya video on YouTube, forgive me, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, to explain to you the lore of the game that you're playing, that it really doesn't have that great of a narrative. Whereas some people are saying, no, it's the environmental storytelling that drives the narrative forward. I think Elden Ring by far is the most accessible of all these Souls-like games that are out there. And it is one that has the most clear, in quotes, narrative. I get that it's still obtuse. I get there's a lot of item reading. But when it came to actually understanding what's going on, I would say Elden Ring is by far the most comprehensible of all the other FromSoft games. Let's take a look at chat here. Vati Vidya, who once again, forget his name, is the best lore dude. You know, I'd put him in My Name is Bife. If you're looking for Destiny lore, My Name is Bife is at the top of the list. If you're looking for Souls Games Borns, Vati Vidya is definitely up there. For sure. And it helps to kind of have them just read things out to you so you don't have to waste time reading all the other things. Let's see. Best performance, no, because we know it's going to be the cast of God of War and Horizon. In fact, I'm going to take a look at it right now. Yeah, it's the cast of God of War and Horizon. And Plague Tale and the other one. What game did I want to take a look at for sure, though, that I wanted to bring up in here? Oh. So, role-playing and fighting. These are two categories that I feel have games in that don't actually belong in there. First up in role-playing. Come on. Are you not gonna actually? That's what I get for doing this live. There we go. So, Xenoblade 3, Triangle Strategy, Pokemon Legends, Live Alive, Elden Ring. I don't know if Elden Ring can be categorized as an RPG. I feel it's mislabeled, but I'm willing to listen to arguments about it. This is not a hill that I'm necessarily going to die on. One game, however, that sure as hell doesn't belong in the category that's been nominated for. Let's go to Best Fighting Game, Sifu. Now you have DNF Duel, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, King of Fighters 15, Multiverses. Those are all clearly fighting games. Sifu, however, is not a fighting game. It's not. When you think of fighting game, you think of Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, the four aforementioned titles that we give him here before. Sifu is an action game, or platform, not platformer, a beat 'em up. It is not a fighting game. I have no idea why this is in here, other than to try to round out a category with 5 choices. But this has no purpose of being in here. If you guys can think of a 5th fighting game that should be on here, following the rules of the Game Awards, by the way, which means it can't be from 2021 or anything like that, please let me know. But that just feels so misplaced on here. And when they misplace things like this, and especially, God forbid if it wins, that's when you get the conspiracy theorists kicking in. So having something like that in a category that it clearly does not belong in does not do the Game Awards any favors. You also have all this other stuff in here. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, like best sim strategy, best multiplayer, all the esports shit, but there's one thing I wanted to bring up. And it's always this weird-ass Content Creator of the Year award thing. Now, I bring this up because I'm just out of touch. I have no idea who 4 of these people are. The first person, Nibelian, this is one of those nepotism things. Because Nibelian didn't create anything. More power to the man. He aggregated news like no one's business, but he just gave out links to news stories. It's not content creation, bro. It's not. He gave out links to news stories on Twitter. The reason why he's even nominated on here is because he left Twitter abruptly, seemingly kind of down, and this really feels like a pity vote. And he's probably going to win because a lot of the people who are judges on this thing were friendly with the man. Or woman. We actually have I have no idea who Nibelian is in real life. These other 4 people, I have no idea who they are because I'm old, I'm out of touch. I'm literally the Skinner meme in this case. Carl Jacobs is a funny Minecraft man in general, gaming Mr. Beastsphere. Okay, see, I've never heard of any of these people. All these people look like half my age or younger, so I'm just out of touch. But I did want to mention the Nebelian one, because if there was a case for nepotism to be made about the Game Awards, it's that right there. And it's not even the Game Awards that does this, it's the people who are voting on it. The literati, the critic class who have voting rights in the Game Awards choices. I feel like they put him here mainly, like I said, as a pity vote, because when he left Twitter, it was kind of in a very dour, why am I doing this? This all kind of sucks situation. I can't make a living off of this. And I think it's a problem. And I feel that this is one of those things that Jeff Keighley kind of needs to step in and go, hey, listen, we can't do that. But that also runs into the whole integrity thing. If you can do that with anything, then I don't know. I have no good solutions here, other than I find it laughable that he is listed as a content creator when he really only just aggregated news sites and not even gave his opinion on a lot of things. He just went, here's a link. Here's a link. This is happening. Here's a link. It saved you a click. Video Games on Twitter gave more input on their stories than Nebelian did. More power to him, though. This is not meant to bash him, to be 100% clear. I liked following him so I could have like a nice aggregated content list to take a look at things. But there's something about here that doesn't sit right with me. Let's see. You're a Spanish nationalist, so you really watch Spanish funny people. If someone speaks Spanish, you vote for them. Hey, it's as valid of a reason as anyone here. These are all just a bunch of people, including myself. I'd have no voting power, but we're all just giving our opinions on who we like and who we don't at the end of the day. So if that is how you choose to vote for people, knock yourself out. All right. One of the top stories I want to get into, this actually broke not too long after last week's stream, and I couldn't necessarily get too much into it. But Mick Gordon, he was the composer on many video games, specifically through id, but most importantly on Doom and Doom Eternal. Made a kick-ass soundtrack, very talented. When Doom Eternal came out, however, people were noticing something seemed to be off with the soundtrack. What happened then is that studio director Marty Stratton at id came out and kind of threw Gordon under the bus, saying, hey, this is all on him. He fucked up. He dropped the ball. He was kind of difficult to work with. Cue a couple years that goes by, and Mick Gordon essentially chose to take his right to defend himself, as he says, and put out this massive article, report. I don't even know what to call this. It's so long it has a table of contents. And he brings all the receipts to it, essentially going into about how abusive working under Stratton was. There are claims of long hours, crunch, unpaid work, material of his being used without his permission or compensation, not being paid for up to 11 months. This goes on and on and on. And like I said, he brings the receipts. He's got emails. He's got blacked out to keep personal information coming out there. He's got documents. He's got all these reports. And this is still going on. It is like an hour plus read, so I'm not clearly reading all of it here. I do recommend you all take a look at this. If even a fraction of what Mick Gordon here is saying is true, Marty Stratton deserves to never, ever work in a managerial position in video games ever again. I highly suggest all of you read this deep dive into Mick Gordon's experience of working under contract through id on Doom and Doom Eternal. The link to this will be provided down below or over on our Discord if you want to take a closer look at that. He did mention on Twitter, let me go ahead and go to this. This is his preamble to the incident here. This is from Mick Gordon's Twitter, by the way. Marty Stratton. Here we go. Marty Stratton, id Software studio director, lied about Doom Eternal's OST events in a Reddit post that used disinformation to blame me entirely for its failure. Later, he offered me a six-figure sum to never speak about it. In Marty's Doom Eternal OST open letter posted on Reddit May 5th, 2020, he made allegations against me that directly contradicted the actual events, contractual terms, public announcements, and contents of emails and calls. Marty's post severely impacted my professional and personal reputation. In releasing this statement, I am exercising my right to defend myself. It is a defense, not an unprovoked attack, which is issued with extreme reluctance only after all other attempts to resolve the matter has failed. This statement is long and goes into details about the crunch, lack of communication, abuse from Stratton, unpaid work, material being used without compensation or notice, and late payments of up to 11 months delayed. He then goes on to say, hey, don't turn this into a hate campaign because that sucks. And I agree. I know it's long. I know it's overly detailed, and it needs to be when you're bringing allegations like this. But please read this thing in its entirety. It is horrific. Even more, made more so that music is so instrumental to Doom, more than it would be normal games. That soundtrack to Doom is easily a good chunk of what makes that game so enjoyable, which is why when Doom Eternal came out, people are kind of wondering what the hell happened. Because people who have a better ear for it than I do listen to it and went, something's off here. They could tell by the work itself that something happened behind the scenes. I'm telling you, it is a fascinating read if you are in any kind of music profession. It is a fascinating read from a video game development standpoint. It is a fascinating read if you are into workers' rights, and it is a fascinating read if you just like knowing how video games are made behind the scenes, and some of the horrendous decisions that sometimes go into making them. I encourage all of you to read this if you have not done so yet. And once again, link to his open letter here will be provided down below in the description. If you do go through it all, please let me know what you think about it. This is one of those things I think needs to be shared as far as it can. This is an older story from last week. I didn't get to cover it on the last show. But as far as I know, too, id and Marty Stratton have not addressed this at all. As far as I can tell, they have not. They might have by the time this goes live, but it is. There should not be a single thing from id or Bethesda, or even by extension Microsoft, since they own them now. There should not be a single announcement or interview that goes by without the reporter bringing this up specifically and demanding that they address this. And the fact that it already feels like the story is dying down and hasn't even been a full week yet is a fucking tragedy. It is. It absolutely is. All right. While talking about Xbox and all that good stuff, we're going to turn our attentions now to Video Game Chronicle and about why Phil Spencer is Microsoft is actually buying Activision Blizzard. Now, Call of Duty is nice, but there is more to it than just that. The headline: Phil Spencer says the Xbox business will become untenable if it remains irrelevant on mobile. While the company's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard is often framed as the Xbox maker seeking to purchase Call of Duty, Phil Spencer has reiterated previous claims that the $68.7 billion deal is primarily driven by Microsoft's mobile gaming ambitions. The idea that Activision is about Call of Duty on console is a construct that might get created by our console competitor, he told Verge's Decoded podcast as transcribed by VGC. He's speaking about Sony there, by the way, without naming them. He said that over the past 5 or 6 years, all the growth in the $200 billion global gaming business has come from the mobile segment, while console and PC revenues have remained relatively flat. Spencer, when asked for a recent comment at Microsoft to make a regulator about being a small player on PC and mobile, said the following: I don't think anyone needs to quote us to understand how irrelevant we are in mobile. Anyone who picks up the phone and decides to play a game would see that on their own. This is Phil Spencer openly coming out and saying, yeah, Microsoft has no mobile presence. Zero. Zilch. Which brings us to why you're buying Activision Blizzard, by the way. Because there's a third company that we all never mention when we say Activision Blizzard, or even shorthand for Activision, and that's King. King, you know, the makers of Candy Crush and many other mobile games that most of us kind of roll our eyes at, rather. They're actually the big boy of that trio. They make stupid amounts of money. I'm going to read you a rather long quote from Phil Spencer here, and it's going to go on for a little bit, but I think it's important to get it all out. From Phil Spencer from this interview. And PC as well. Our trials and tribulations over the last 5-6 years in PC gaming were kind of well documented, and we continue to work on it. And I love the work that Xbox app team has been on, and our PC studio is doing great work on PC, but it takes time. In terms of the Activision opportunity, and I keep saying this over and over, and it's true, it definitely starts with the view that people want to play games on every device they have. And in a funny way, the small screen that we play on is actually the biggest screen when you think about the installed base in phones. As an aside, that also makes sense why they keep dipping their toe into this cloud stuff. Because if they can start streaming things like Halo and God of War and Forza to your phone, that's it. Game over. We just need the technology to get up to that point. Back to what Phil Spencer said. That's just the place where if we don't gain relevancy as a video game brand, and we're not alone seeing this, over time the business will become kind of untenable for any of us. We're not able to find customers on phones or any screen that someone wants to play on. You're really going to get a segmented niche part of gaming that running a global business will become very challenging. As a percent of the overall gaming business, the console business is shrinking because the overall business is growing and console stays relatively flat as a business. Same with PC. What he's saying is that the raw numbers of people on consoles and PC aren't dropping, but gaming is expanding. So when you have, like, say, 1 million gamers and 800,000 of them are playing on console and PC, you have 80% of the marketplace. Now let's say you have 10 million gamers, but still only 800,000 are playing on PC. My numbers are fucked up, but the point is, if the number of people playing on PC and console isn't increasing, but the number of gamers is increasing, you have a comparatively smaller and smaller section of the pie. That's what he's saying right here. And then look at the largest gaming companies out there. Tencent being the biggest gaming company in the world. So much of their revenue comes from mobile, and then they put their business success and that they've earned through work they've done into the market, acquiring other studios at a very fast rate. In other words, they're outpacing them. It is important to note that Activision Blizzard said last week that its monthly active user base totaled 368 million for the quarter that ended September 2022. Candy Crush maker King accounted for 240 million players of that 368 million people that played all games in Activision Blizzard King. More than half were playing King games. Candy Crush and other games of itself from King. World of Warcraft and Diablo Studio Blizzard for 31 million. Call of Duty for 97 million. Now, 97 million is not bad. 97 is not bad at all. That's quite a bit of users playing your game. But it's less than, a third of what is playing Candy Crush. Maybe not less than a third. It's like 2.5 times more people played Candy Crush, or not King games, than Call of Duty. King, by the way, also has more players than all the other divisions combined and generates more revenue. So you take every game that Activision has out there, every game that Blizzard has out there, you combine them into one pool, and not only are more people playing the games from King, but the King games are making significantly more revenue as well. That is the main reason why Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard King. Now, Call of Duty's nice. Call of Duty's the gravy. But King is the entire goddamn turkey. And something tells me, if you were to force Phil Spencer, or the powers that be at Microsoft, into a situation where the only way they were going to get this Activision Blizzard King deal to go through was to give up Activision in its entirety, they would. They would give up Activision Blizzard in their entirety and just take King for the amount they paid for it, even, in my opinion. Now, they wouldn't do that because they can kind of... that wouldn't happen, rather, because they can, of course, renegotiate contracts and everything like that. But at the end of the day, King is the crown jewel here, not Call of Duty. Call of Duty is impressive. Call of Duty is nice. Call of Duty is a nice appetizer. Call of Duty is a nice side dish to go along with what is the main course that is King. I don't think I'm off base on this, but if I am, please let me know down below. All right, a couple smaller bits of news to go through here real quick. First up, The Witcher is going to have its next-gen update finally coming out December 14th. It's roughly a month from now. Enhanced with the power of next-gen consoles and modern PC hardware in mind, the upcoming update will feature dozens of visual performance and technical enhancements, including ray tracing support, faster load times on consoles, a variety of mods integrated into the experience, and more. On top of that, we're adding a set of DLCs inspired by Netflix's The Witcher series, such as new weapons and armor for Geralt and alternative looks for select characters. I have been meaning to go back through and play through The Witcher 3 again. I haven't played any one of the expansions either, neither Hearts of Stone or Blood and Wine. When this finally drops, I might get around to doing it again. It's just a bad time of the year for me to be playing old game over again. I say fully realizing the irony that I'm playing through Tactics Ogre Reborn, but that aside. I have been looking for an excuse to get into this. I've been kind of waiting for this patch. It is going to be free to people who have it, so awesome. That's always nice. Say what you will about CD Projekt Red, they tend to do their big updates for free, and they add a lot of meaty content to it, so that's always nice. Doesn't necessarily forgive, but it's nice when it comes to like Cyberpunk. Although that is also a very significantly improved game over the years. I've gone on that rant enough times that we don't need to revisit that here. I'm looking forward to it. December 14th was when it drops. Definitely take a look at it. A couple more news stories, one more big one, and then two small acquisitions I want to get to. This is via Eurogamer and kind of like a weird side, what could have been, from Eurogamer. Rockstar once rejected a GTA film starring Eminem. I think that's a good call, and I'll get into why as we go on. Maybe not for the obvious reason, but I do think it's a good call. Now, like I said, we'll discuss. To the article. A GTA Hollywood movie was once turned down by the president of Rockstar Games, Sam Houser. This information was revealed by Kirk Ewing on the BBC Sounds podcast Bugsy Malone's Grandest Game, in which the rapper talks about the impacts of GTA series had on him. Ewing recalled staying up late one night with Houser in his hotel room, chatting around the possibility of a movie adaptation or tie-in. This was just after Grand Theft Auto 3, was released, Ewing said. And I think at that point it was still in Sam's mind that it might have something to do with what we wanted to do. Or he went on to say he received a call from a producer in LA who made an offer for a GTA film. Names attached to the project were Eminem as the actor and Tony Scott to direct. Rockstar would see $5 million on the nose out the gate, and Ewing called Houser, and Houser responded to say he wasn't interested. At that point, Ewing continued, they withdrew any conversation about making a film when they realized the media franchise they had was bigger than any movie was going on at the time. That is why they're right. Not so much because Eminem or how weird this might be odd, but because $5 million for a Grand Theft Auto movie is chump change. Grand Theft Auto today is, I believe, the biggest, most profitable media franchise ever. Note, I did not say game. I said media franchise. Books, TVs, movies, other video games, music. None of it made as much as the Grand Theft Auto has as a franchise. I could be wrong on that these days. I don't know if I am or not, though. $5 million would have been a massive, massive mistake when they could have easily have gotten hundreds of millions for the right set. So, and I think Houser realized it at the time. At least it sounds like this on this here. So you want to know why there was never a Grand Theft Auto movie? It's because Hollywood was not willing to pay for it. And Houser rightfully looked at it and went, nah, this is bigger than any movie that you guys can make. Why damage the brand? If the movie's great, awesome. We didn't make really all that much off of it compared to how much the franchise itself makes. If it's terrible, it just damages the brand. Fuck that. So, good on Houser for rejecting it. Whether or not there'll be another pitch for a GTA movie, who knows? One day, maybe. I don't see it happen anytime soon. Two small bits of news, both acquisitions. This right here from Gematsu. Thunderful Games to acquire Somerville developer Jumpship. Somerville, of course, just came out. We'll be talking about that in a bit. The developer behind that has been gobbled up by Thunderful Games. And also, PUBG owner Krafton has acquired the Ascent developer Neon Giant. This is from Video Game Chronicle as well. The Ascent was that futuristic kind of RPG with a little bit of Diablo thrown in where you're climbing up a tower. I think it's free on Game Pass if you want to take a look at it right now. That was their first game. I think it was their debut game from Neon Giant. Krafton gobbled them up. They're a South Korean developer publisher who is most famously known for PUBG. And also, I believe, publishing the upcoming Callisto Protocol, which was once set in the PUBG universe. So 2 more acquisitions to add to the growing list of people getting gobbled up by their biggers and larger companies as the year goes on. All right, that does it for the news. Let's go ahead and move on to new releases. We have a whole series of them. First up, the aforementioned Somerville on PC, Xbox O, and Series X. In the wake of catastrophe, you must find the means to make your family whole again. Somerville is a sci-fi adventure grounded in the intimate repercussions of large-scale conflict. I remember seeing this game, a trailer for it about a year back or so. It looked amazing. I was all into it. I finally got around to playing it last night. You can check the VOD over at twitch.tv/GamePoints. And I will say, for being a 3.5-hour game, it somehow still overstayed its welcome. For the first third of that game, I was all in. It looked amazing. I was like, hell yes, there's some alien invasion shit going on. People running, trying to do some refuge, like trying to take shelter as these giant weird obelisks are raining down around you. And then you get into this cave system, and it's boring as hell. And then an hour goes on, you're still in the goddamn cave system. And then eventually you get out of the cave system, and you're wondering what the hell's going on because the story goes off the rails. I feel like this game advertised itself as something that it wasn't. It very much does that thing that some movies do, where all the great parts of the games are the ones that you see on the trailer and everything else is just dull as hell. And I cannot recommend Somerville at all. And that's a shame because you can actually probably beat this in about 2 hours, especially if you can figure out all the weird stuff back to back to back to back. And that's not to say everything it's overly a difficult game. It's not. There are just some puzzles in there that aren't logical at all, in addition to some weird environmental choices where it turns out you can actually walk over some things but can't others, but they look very similar. So it turns into a game of, can I do something with this? No. Can I do something with this? No. And so you're jerking on the entire scenery. And for only being a 3 to 3.5 hour game, an unacceptable large amount of graphical issues, flickering characters, flashing white screen every now and then, almost like a strobe-like effect where it'll just kind of real quick. It really needed a lot more polish, but even with that polish, the game itself gets so bonkers by the end, it just makes no sense. And not bonkers in the good way, like, say, Inside or Limbo were. And I use those games for a reason. But this is just not good. I cannot recommend Somerville. But it is out on PC, Xbox One, and Series X if you want to take a look at it. Also out this week, Call of Duty Warzone 2 on PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, and X Series X. Warzone 2.0. You know what it is. Goat Simulator 3 is on PC. Pilgor is back. I did not know the goat had a name. I learn something new every day. Gather your herd and venture forth into Goat Simulator 3, an all-new, totally realistic multiplayer sandbox farmyard experience. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming out on the Switch. These are the first installments of the 9th generation of Pokemon. I expect these to be massive sellers. I do believe there's a lot of videos out already from these. I think someone broke street date on it. I'm pretty sure that the entire Pokédex has been spoiled. So if you want to play these games blind, don't look online at all. Let's take a look at chat here real quick. Inside and Limbo are the absolute zero context games, Diarchy. Yes, but while Inside and Limbo have zero context, you can at least create a coherent story out of them. Somerville does not have that, especially toward the end. A lot of questionable decisions that I was yelling at the camera, wondering why is this happening when it's clearly obvious they should not be making the choices they are. Also out this week, Dark Pictures Anthology, The Devil in Me, on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Series X. A group of documentary filmmakers receive a mysterious call inviting them to a modern-day replica of serial killer H.H. Holmes' murder castle. But on arrival, they soon discover they're being watched and even manipulated, and suddenly there is much more at stake than just the ratings. This is another one of the Dark Pictures games. These are from the people that made Until Dawn. Expect a narrative story with the occasional quick-time event. You get to make some choices. People die. People live based on those choices. I have a very mixed view of the Dark Picture stuff. I think some of their games are awesome. I loved Man of Medan. I think that House of Ashes was all right. Little Hope, however, sucked. And the Quarry, which is not a Dark Pictures game, but something else that they did, was kind of take it or leave it. I want this to be cool because I like H.H. Holmes. I like the story behind H.H. Holmes, and I'm very interested to see what they can do with that story, especially in the modern setting. But I just don't have high hopes for this because the Dark Pictures anthology as a whole has not been nearly the polished horror experience that I was hoping it would be. Curator, awesome. Some of the plots, some of the storytelling, rather awesome. The gameplay itself, very dated, very budget, which kind of was the goal. These were always envisioned to be your direct to video horror movies as opposed to your big budget cinematic releases. But I still expected maybe a little bit more polish to them. Anyways, I probably will be picking this up because I think I overall like them. That comes out this week. Also, finally, to talk about Pentiment on the PC, Series X, and Xbox One. Step into a living illustrated world inspired by illuminated manuscripts and printed woodcuts at a time when Europe is at the crossroads of great religious and political change. Walk in the footsteps of Andreas Mahler, a monster artist who finds himself in the middle of murder, scandals, and intrigue in the Bavarian Alps. This is, I think it was Obsidian that was working on this. This is that game that kind of came out. It has a very unique art style, unique setting, very much a change of direction from this developer. It's a smaller game that they're doing. I know almost nothing about this. It's getting reviewed exceedingly well right now, and I know I'm going to take a look at it for no other reason than it is so goddamn unique. It could be a terrible game, but there's something about it that just looks awesome. And I believe once again it's free on Game Pass. I'm not a Microsoft shell by any stretch of the imagination, but it does allow me to play smaller stuff like this without having to worry about spending a dime on it. Well, cost of Game Pass notwithstanding. So I'll be taking a look at that likely this weekend as well. That wraps things up for new releases, which means that does it for the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 333, and thank you all for showing up. If you like what you saw here and you want to support the stream, you know what to do. Likes, bits, follows, shares, the subs, all that good stuff. You can follow myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21. You can join our Discord link provided down there with all the stories that we talked about today. And we will, of course, be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints with another episode. I'll also be streaming intermittently throughout the week. Normally, I stream 2 shows on Wednesday, Monday, and Thursday. However, tomorrow will not have an afternoon show because I have a lovely dental appointment that I have to go visit and get a checkup on that. But we will be back tonight, that night, for something. Don't know what yet. We also have the Callisto Protocol that we'll be playing through, Marvel Midnight Suns that we'll be playing through. Those games are a mere couple weeks away. Looking forward to doing that. And a whole variety of other things coming out, being this particular time of year. It's that time when everything drops. Anyways, I'm heading out. Y'all stay safe, take care, and until next week, I'll be seeing you.